Hi, and welcome to my channel, Strictly Flying. In this episode, I want to talk about how Lufthansa, a supposedly 5-star airline, according to Skytrax, totally screwed me over. Now, before we jump straight to the point, I want to quickly explain how I normally commute to work. I'm an engineer, working in Norway but live in Brazil. Before the pandemic, I was a frequent flyer with KLM. Flying between my office in Stavanger, Norway, and Fortaleza, a city in the northeast of Brazil. This route had only one stop in Amsterdam, and was extremely convenient as the entire trip would last only 11 hours and 30 minutes. When the pandemic hit the world hard in the end of February, KLM reduced its capacity by 90% overnight. This included their direct flight to Fortaleza, and their direct flight to Stavanger. So essentially, I was kinda stuck. It was time to get creative. KLM's 10% capacity included a 3-weekly service to Sao Paulo, a city in the south of Brazil, just southwest of Rio de Janeiro, and 1 daily flight from the Norwegian capital Oslo. KLM has a code-share agreement with Gol, a domestic airline in Brazil. So connecting in Sao Paulo wasn't a problem. The problem laid in Norway. Since KLM doesn't have any agreement with either SAS Scandinavian Airlines, nor Norwegian Airlines, I had to book my domestic flight in Norway between Stavanger and Oslo, separately. This opened up another can of worms, as a separate ticket meant any delays, and a missed flight from Oslo meant I could essentially lose my right to compensation or rebooking. So I had to make sure I had a long layover in Oslo as a buffer in case of any delays. After extensive searching online for flights, KLM's best offer was a 46-hour trip from Oslo to Fortaleza, with an overnight stop in Amsterdam and Sao Paulo. Accommodation in either Amsterdam or Sao Paulo was not included. I did, however, have a friend living in Amsterdam that would provide me with accommodation, and the price of a mid-range hotel in Sao Paulo was relatively cheap. Also, my flight from Stavanger to Oslo had to be purchased separately. I went ahead and purchased the ticket from KLM, and my domestic flight with SAS to Oslo. A total travel time of over 50 hours. Although a very long trip, I managed to get home to Brazil without any issues. The total price for the ticket, including accommodation, wasn't overly expensive either, so taking into account the current situation, I wasn't really complaining. By the way, you can check out my trip reports for this flight by clicking on the links in the description below. Now, let's fast forward to May, when I had to go through the entire ordeal all over again. I didn't really want to travel another 50 hours to get home. I was searching the internet for flights when suddenly Lufthansa appeared with an offer from Oslo to Fortaleza with a flight time of only 22 hours. Lufthansa is in the same alliance as SAS Scandinavian Airlines, however there was no option to include the Stavanger to Oslo segment, so I had to once again buy this ticket separately. I went ahead and booked the ticket with Lufthansa. Now keep in mind that KLM has a code-share agreement with Gol, however Lufthansa has a code-share agreement with another Brazilian carrier, LATAM. I would arrive in Sao Paulo 4:25 in the morning, and my connecting flight with LATAM departed 8:15. Only a 4-hour layover in Sao Paulo, which was perfect. I had booked my separate flight to Oslo the day before my flight to Brazil. This obviously added to the cost, but I wanted to play it safe. A week before my flight, the nightmare with Lufthansa started. Just 1 week prior to departure, I get an email from Lufthansa informing me that my flight from Sao Paulo to Fortaleza has been cancelled. Instead of rebooking me to the next available flight, they instead offer me to rebook the entire flight or ask if I want a voucher. A voucher? Seriously? I immediately called Lufthansa. After about an hour and a half on hold, I came through and explained the situation. They informed me that they have an available seat on the next available flight leaving at 12:10. Saw my 4-hour layover now turned into an 8-hour layover. Great! Thank you, Lufthansa. Now fast forward to the day before my departure to Oslo, and I get another email from Lufthansa. Identical to the first email, they had cancelled my flight from Sao Paulo once again, and offered me yet again a voucher. I tried to call Lufthansa again, but after 2 hours on hold, I gave up and decided to chance it and sort things out at the airport in Oslo directly with a representative from Lufthansa. Keep in mind, I have purchased a separate flight to Oslo, so if they actually cancelled my entire flight, I would be stuck in Oslo. According to Lufthansa, My flight to Sao Paulo was still confirmed. My flight to Oslo went smoothly without any issues. Upon arriving in Oslo, I went straight to the SAS counter to sort out the cancelled flight. SAS is a handling agent for Lufthansa and would be able to assist. When the agent checked my ticket, he could not see any flight to Fortaleza at all. According to my ticket, my final destination was Sao Paulo. Of course I had the original ticket on hand, and after handing it over, the agent was surprised to see that the 12:10 flight to Fortaleza was not cancelled at all, however it was fully booked. The agent then called Lufthansa directly, and after about 15 minutes on the phone, he handed me a new ticket with a new departure with goal instead leaving Sao Paulo at 10 p.m. at night. At this time I was furious with Lufthansa. But I was too tired to care. I had a ticket home and just wanted to get moving. The part that annoyed me the most was the fact that I had bought the ticket with Lufthansa to save time. Now the total trip was virtually as long as the KLM's option, and KLM was at least €100 cheaper. Adding to the fact that I could even earn miles and status points to my KLM Flying Blue loyalty program just made me depressed. Obviously I was not going to spend my now 14-hour layover at the airport, so I even spent another €70 for a room at the sleep-in hotel near the airport in Sao Paulo. Anyways, I made it home eventually and I hoped my return trip back to work in Norway would provide a smoother experience. Boy oh boy. Wrong again. So, 2 weeks later. Time to head back to work. I checked the status of my flight before leaving for the airport. Everything confirmed. About 15 minutes prior to arriving at the airport. In my car. I get another text message from Lufthansa. Flight cancelled. Again. Are you kidding me? I tried to stay calm. And headed for the airport thinking there must be a mistake. Upon arriving at the airport, I went straight to Latam's service desk.
Olá, tudo bem? Essa eu vou para São Paulo agora, meio-dia 50. Tá confirmado, não é? Essa aqui, o meu booking, que eu recebi um e-mail, eu tenho conexões com Lufthansa. De São Paulo para Frankfurt. Eu recebi no caminho para o aeroporto que está cancelado. Eu entrei no site de vocês ontem, estava tudo confirmado. Eu estava no meio do caminho para o aeroporto quando eu recebi essa mensagem.
É hoje o voo?
É hoje.
Não, o senhor não tá não. O senhor tem um da Latam?
At this point I had to stop filming. I was getting seriously aggravated and increasingly nervous that I would miss this flight. I was told I had to call the Lufthansa ticket office to clear things up. Only problem was that the ticket office was closed on the weekend. As this was a Sunday, there was no way to get it sorted. I was told I had to wait until the next day to sort it out. Now I was getting furious. And I asked for their manager who was not available on the weekend. I told them I would not leave until they got me on that plane. And that they surely could help me if they really wanted to do so. I was asked to calm down and she would try to call someone in Sao Paulo.
Bom, liguei para a central falou o seguinte, eu posso estar inserindo Fortaleza Guarulhos, só que eu não tenho como ver o seu trecho Guarulhos-Oslo, certo? Você vai ter que ligar um desses números aqui para ver se um deles dois atende, só para confirmar se esse voo que está com ele está ok.
Mas tá confirmado pelo site, mas qualquer coisa, se eu chegar lá, vai ter representante da Lufthansa lá no Guarulhos. E ela vai arrumar qualquer coisa, arrumar tudo pra mim. Mas tá confirmado.
Tem que ligar nesses dois números, que aí já...
Mas agora, esse trecho tá
ok.
Tá ok, né?
Tá ok.
Tá.
Viu? Não.
Desculpa a grosseria, né?
Não,
mas eu tô falando que...
Eu não consigo mexer em nenhum sistema de outra companhia.
Não, eu entendo, mas assim, eu acho que é muito fácil só pra falar pra cliente, olha, só liga lá, tá entendendo? É só mandar ir embora. Eu acho que é muito fácil na sua parte. Eu acho que deveria fazer um pouco mais, tá entendendo? Para resolver.
O que eu pude fazer foi só inserir Fortaleza Guarulhos. Aí realmente, se tiver cancelado, eu teria que ver com a Lufthansa lá e a recomendação com eles.
Agradeço essa aqui, viu?
De nada.
Ajuda. Tá bom? Muito obrigado.
De nada.
Tchau, tchau.
So, I made my flight to Sao Paulo. The problem though, Latam had not checked me in on the connecting flights because Lufthansa had cancelled the flight from Fortaleza. This meant I had to run outside the domestic terminal, head over to the international terminal and check in again. With a short connection. I was still nervous. Upon arriving in Sao Paulo, I made my way to an empty Lufthansa check-in desk. I obviously told them what had happened and they only shrugged their shoulders. Then they told me I was checked into Frankfurt. When I told them I had a connecting flight to Oslo, they were baffled and had to look into that as well. Now I was getting fed up. And I told them straight out to get their act together. I didn't have the time to document anything at this time, but needless to say, I was furious once again. Only 30 minutes prior to departure, they finally managed to get me on a later flight to Frankfurt. I made it back to Norway in the end. So that's my story. After returning home, I wondered if all of this is because of the pandemic and the changes to their schedule that caused all the cancellations. Because this kind of treatment is unacceptable in my opinion. Lufthansa is ranked as a 5-star airline on Skytrax, however when reading the reviews on Skytrax, their score doesn't represent the rating at all. I even found a couple of reviews with complaints about the exact same issue as me. Cancelled flights without any information. Has this happened to you? What is your experience with Lufthansa? Was I only unlucky? Anyways, thanks for watching. Remember, you can find links to my full trip reports for the first KLM flight and the trouble flights with Lufthansa in the description below. Lastly, don't forget to support this channel by giving it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this.